Hi guys, today I want to talk to you about pale skin. Pale skin doesn't have to be a bad thing. A lot of people think, especially coming out of summer when our skin loses whatever glow or warmth that we had. People like me don't get a whole lot of sun anyways. But whatever we did have in the summer is now gone. We faded into our winter skin. And a lot of times that can be kind of a bummer, right? Because there is so much beauty to color. And people like me, we don't have a lot of melanin in our skin, and so we lose a lot of that richness, which can result in very dull looking skin, sometimes not looking very well. Sometimes we look a little sickly, tired. Pale skin doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be a very beautiful thing. The problem is that when we have very pale skin, it means that imperfections are going to show up so much more obviously on us. And it's also very difficult to find makeup that's going to match our skin well. When we're just choosing one color to blanket our whole face, we are going to have to do one of two things. We're either going to have to match the level of pigment that is in those areas of discoloration in order to camouflage them, or we're going to have to match the palest colors in our skin so that we blend seamlessly, especially into our neck. Usually our neck is paler than our face. And so you kind of have to go one of two ways. Either your face is darker than your neck, right? And that usually results in looking like a mask. Or you end up matching the color of your neck and going with those lighter tones, but then having to apply more and more makeup in order to cover the areas of imperfection, which results in a cakey look. The other problem with having only one shade of foundation when your skin is very pale is that you're going to create a very flat look. Our skin is not just one shade. It's not like a blank piece of paper. It's this beautiful collaboration of pigments and colors all interwoven to make this beautiful mosaic of skin. And so if we take one shade and we blanket the entire face, especially when we're going really pale, for people that don't have a lot of color to our skin, what we end up doing is flattening the face and really creating kind of this wide look to the face. It's almost like brightening and highlighting the entire face, and anything that you highlight is going to become more prominent and stand out optically, like an optical illusion. So if we take one really light, bright shade and we put it all over our face, what's going to result of that is basically this flat moon face that's going to come forward. It can be very tricky for a pale girl to get the dimension, the coverage, and the luminosity and the vibrancy that she wants from her makeup, because a lot of times what we end up with is something kind of chalky, with these discolorations still showing through the makeup. We see kind of a highlighting of texture on the skin. Whenever we go with a lighter shade, it often really emphasizes fine lines and texture of scars and scabs and blemishes and all of those things that we really don't want to highlight and draw attention to. It also results in kind of a dull look to the skin, kind of an ashy look to the skin. And like I said, it flattens it. It makes it very one-dimensional rather than three-dimensional. Even though in theory, pale skin can be just so gorgeous, getting that beautiful luminous richness to the skin, despite being so pale, historically has been very difficult to achieve with makeup. Okay, so that brings me to Saint and why I love it. I particularly love it for pale skin girls like me who have really had to compromise in the makeup department. If we can even find a shade light enough for our skin, which is like, you know, for me, I would go to the beauty counter or shop Sephora and I would check out the brand of makeup that I'm interested in. Usually it had to be very sensitive skin appropriate because I have super sensitive acne prone skin. And then if it checked all those boxes, they had to have a shade light enough for me. So it would be going to the very farthest left and choosing the shade that basically had no color to it. My previous colored foundation was N0, which translates to neutral nothing. That is my shade. And that's kind of sad. It's like there's no color that we're putting into my skin at all. So with Saint, we have a system that is utilizing more than one color, and that is incredible for women like me especially, who are looking to put a little life back into our skin while also covering these areas and not looking like we're wearing a mask that's way too dark for our skin. I'm gonna show you today how you can embrace those really fair colors in your skin and amp up that beautiful, ethereal, almost exotic look that you have when you're super fair. We're not gonna go bronzy. We're not gonna add a lot of warmth or rich colors that aren't naturally found in my skin. If you have very pale skin, that's something that you can celebrate and emphasize and bring out and really show the beauty of that natural paleness. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to address are the imperfections, okay? The things that I want the coverage for the most, because those are the things that aren't going to be covered by a super pale shade that is much lighter than those pigments. It's going to require a lot more product if I want to do that, and I never want to apply too much product. We want to keep it as light as possible, okay? So I'm going to go in with a color corrector for this. I'm using Sunlit, which is a beautiful yellow. It seems super scary, but it's exactly the right shade to go just underneath my eyes here and take care of these mama circles that I have, okay? Because they're purple in color, and yellow is opposite to purple on the color wheel. And so all you need is a tiny bit of that, and that's going to really minimize, if not obliterate, that excess color of purple. We never want a lot of product under the eyes, especially over 30, 35, 40 and up, because this area moves so often, and this is where we tend to get some creping and lots of texture that we don't want to emphasize. So the more product that you have there that's going to pool in that area, the worse it's going to look. We want to keep it very minimal. So then I'm going to go in and I'm going to use that same shade, Sunlit, on other areas that have that purpley tone to them. And a lot of times you might mistake red for purple. If it's a red mark or was red, but it's kind of a dull or dark shade of it now, that means that there's some blue mixed in with it. Therefore, you're actually dealing more with purple than red. So you're gonna find that yellow is quite effective in combating that. Now, if you have deeper skin than me, Mango is a fantastic color corrector. It's an orangey shade. But if you're very pale like I am, which you probably are if you're watching this video, then I think you'll like to use a little bit of yellow. Not too much yellow. We don't want to look yellow, but a little bit of yellow is going to do the trick. Now, if I need to later, I will go over those areas again. If after I've blended, they kind of peek out a bit. But I just wanted to show you without any other makeup on how that really does help that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and contour. So contouring can be really scary for pale people like us because it's dark and we're not. We're really fair, right? We're light. And so we're worried that contour is going to look super unnatural on us. And it certainly can, especially when you are dealing with a powder contour that's super dark and you're putting it on top of a liquid, because we know a lot of us set our makeup with powder. So you know, if you put something powdery on top of something liquid, it's going to stick just like glue and kind of cement it to that area. And we don't want that, because then it doesn't move, it doesn't blend, and it ends up looking really patchy and dirty. So cream makeup is a lot different than that. And when it comes to kind of maintaining that paleness, I'm going to just be applying a small amount at a time to build it up to where I want it. You'll see me doing other videos where I put this on with my finger or a small dense brush, and I just apply everything in one layer. And it looks crazy. It looks like clown makeup where everything's just kind of on with lines and dots, and then I blend it all together. For this, I'm just going to be applying with my brush because I want very light coverage. I don't want to look makeup-y. So I'm going to take the time to explain what I'm doing rather than that just like wham bam, done, glam look that I do really love. And if you're interested in that, do check out my other videos because that's my preferred method most of the time. But I just want to show how contour does not have to be scary. We're really just choosing a shade that's going to kind of mimic the natural shadow in your face. So we don't want it to look warm. It's not, we definitely don't want to use a bronzer. And this is where a lot of really warm skinned girls, they can get away with using bronzer as a contour because they might have warmer tones in their skin. So bronzer might kind of work for them to look like a shadow, but for us, it does not work. If you have really cool toned skin, and particularly if you're very pale, a bronzer is gonna look orangey, it's gonna look really fake, and it's not gonna work well as a contour. You want to find an ashy shade that's gonna just look like a shadow on your skin. So this one is actually called Ash, the one I'm using. If you're even more pale than I am, You could go with a shade called Aspen. That one I typically don't recommend unless you're really, really, really pale, like whiter than my neck, okay? So I do have 2 daughters that can pull off Aspen. They're lighter than I am. But most of the time I would recommend Ash. It's a really great one. I've got my contour on, okay? And I'm going to now add my 2 highlight shades. So I'm going to go in with one shade here. This is a new one called Versailles. And it is, I'll show you what it looks like, quite pale, okay? Now for me, because I'm 35, I have maturing skin and I have a lot of issues with permanent discoloration on my skin, areas of hyperpigmentation and so on. If I didn't do that first step with the color correcting, this wouldn't work well for me because it's still paler than all those imperfections. So for me, using a bit of a collage of colors together is going to be what makes this look really work for me. So I'm not just blanketing the skin in only one shade. I'm working with contour, I'm working with 2 different highlight shades plus the color corrector shade. And that's what's going to make this really work well, embracing my paleness and showing the beauty of paleness without all those issues that we typically find with traditional foundation. So I'm applying this kind of in the perimeter of the face, kind of in this beard area and the forehead area up here. And you'll notice I'm skipping some areas. It's because this makeup is really meant to be worn in one layer. You don't have to layer product upon product and have cakiness to your makeup. We don't want that. We want just a little bit of product melting out and into each other and working together seamlessly, okay? So I am going to apply a little bit of this in this area too. So just think kind of beard area, forehead. Last area that I'm going to apply product is the center of the face. I'm still just using what's left on my brush here with that Versailles. But now I'm going to create that really 3-dimensional look using my brightener shade. So this shade is called Moonlit, and this is the palest color that we have with Saint. So this would traditionally have been the color that I would have blanketed my entire face with. And then I would have had to go to work building on top of that, using other products to try to contour my face and add color and dimension back in, because it would just flatten the entire face. Because as you can see, when I apply this brightener, anything I apply that brightener to comes forward visually, doesn't it? That's the effect of a brightening shade that's lighter than everything else. It appears to come forward. And so if you do that to your entire face, the whole face is just kind of bouncing forward like this optical illusion. Everything, the areas that are naturally in shadow appear to come forward as well. So everything is just like this big flat oval or circle or whatever shape your face is. We are naturally highlighting and contouring the beautiful natural bone structure that you have. We're bringing out these features that are meant to pop forward with a brightening shade. Okay, and then everything else is in its proper place. So I put that brightening shade down the center of the face, and then I'm also going to add it to the ball of my cheek here where I want that cheekbone to really come forward. So not too close to the eye, because again, we don't want to highlight crow's feet and textured area there. So it's kind of just below there that I'm putting this highlight. And I'll do it on this side as well. Okay. So now we've got basically this triangle of light in the center that's nice and pale, nice and bright, but we still have some dimension to the face. So now I just go and I kind of use circular motions with a rounded end brush and make sure everything's blended. So see that I look obviously very pale, okay? And yet I don't have this flat moon face. I don't look dull and dead. So I'm going to use this beautiful pink shade here called Candy. It's a new one, and it's actually a gloss. People ask me all the time if glosses are okay for cheeks. Absolutely, because it gives that beautiful luminosity to the skin. Think of a child with that dewy skin and that flush of color. That is just the epitome of natural beauty. We also have some satins though, a large collection of satins. So if you prefer matte, go for a matte. That's totally fine. I personally really like this. I feel like it looks very natural, very pretty. And I think this is just enough color for me. I also like to add sometimes a little bit of extra color somewhere else on the skin. So you could totally go in with another shade. Let's say maybe watermelon here. And you can, this is a satin, so you can see the pigment there. It's a lot more punchy. So if you like more of a matte color, keep that in mind. It's going to deliver more pigment right off the cuff. But I like to put a little bit of that deeper color back on the cheekbone a little bit more, high up on the face, because makeup, we should always be focusing on lifting the face, not dragging it down, in my opinion. So I like to apply that a little higher up, so it gives some visual interest and a burst of color, nice and healthy, without putting a blob of color too far down and widening the face or muddying up that beautiful contour you've just created. Now, you can apply the exact same color on your lips. So this is Baby Watermelon. I'm going to show you two lip looks here. Here's Baby Watermelon. Now, obviously, this is a very bright color. It's beautiful on the cheeks. If you're going for a more natural look on the lips, I would recommend mixing a shade like this, either with your contour. So this could mix really well with Ash, that same contour color that I used. Or you can mix it together with another lip shade like Nude, for example, and I'll show you what that looks like. If you're looking for a little bit of color on the face, the cheeks and the lips are where you want to play that up, right? So a little bit of pink mixed with a shade like Nude is really fabulous on the lips. Okay, so I personally love that combination. The other thing you can do, you can also apply just a nice gloss, so like Candy that we did first on the cheeks. It's going to give a super natural, sheer, glossy look to the lips. And then what I would do is I would take that small fluffy brush that I used before, and I would go in with a little bit of contour. And actually I would normally do this before, but anyways, go a little over the lips, just giving a soft shadow and a little under. And it gives such a pouty, plumpy look to the lips without any harsh lines. This really defines them, and yet there's no harsh color or line there on the lips. It just brings them forward. With that being said, pale girls definitely can rock color. So one shade that I've been loving lately is this one called Venice, which seems really scary. It's like this electric coral in the pan. And but because it's sheer, it's buildable, so you can go all out on the lips. It's kind of an electric pinky coral shade. Or you can also soften that quite a bit. Add more to the cheeks instead and blot the lips down. So that's another option. Okay, let me show you what it looks like when you add a bit of your contour to this. So if you're only going for one lip and cheek color, keep in mind you still have some versatility with that, because you can mix your contour shade in with that to deepen it and make it look a little more nude or muted. And it does not taste like anything weird, it doesn't smell weird, it doesn't feel weird. It's the same texture. So that's that. You could certainly add a bronzer, but we're not going for that look today. We're going to embrace the pale. I'm going to go in, like I said before, and just tap in a little bit of that color corrector where I've blended it too much. So some of those areas that I covered in the beginning that I showed you, sometimes it's just easier to do it afterwards. But I did want to show you the coverage without anything else, just so you would see. Okay, so for the rest of the look, we're going to do brows. First, I'm going to start with a brow wax. So the brow wax is very cool. It's totally clear. And you want to start by getting it a little bit wet. So you're going to use your spoolie. If you have the line brush, this is a perfect brush for this. And you're going to use a little bit of either water or setting spray. So I'm going to take my setting spray. I'm actually going to spray it directly onto this. You could put it directly onto your brush and then put it in. I just like to do it this way. And you're going to kind of work it in there so that it's on the brush. And then we're going to go in and work upwards. So you're going to see the brow hairs separate. I'm going to give that way more volume and texture. I don't have much to work with. My brows fell victim to the 90s. So I've got to work with what I've got here. And I suspect many women in my generation have the same issue. Okay, so we've got those up. That's going to stay all day. You can also, if you don't like this more arched look, you can totally just brush them to the side instead. You can do it however you like. I personally, I want to lift up. I want to have extra space for my eye look. And so I'm going to work upward. I'm going to go in with my contour. And I'm going to use this end of the brush and I'm going to just kind of stencil in some brow strokes. Okay, so that's a nice bold look. Not everybody's cup of tea, but that's very on trend. So I'm going to stick with that for now. For those who are looking for that type of a look, you can fill in your brows as much or as little as you want. You don't have to fill them in at all. You could just use the brow wax by itself and give them a little bit of fluff without any color. And that's also a really cool look, especially for this kind of ethereal, pale, no makeup look. But I am going to add a little bit of my eyeshadow here. I'm using the shade Basic. I like to add a little bit of shadow and the contour just for a mix of textures because I think it creates more of a natural look overall. All right, and that's good. And just remember with brows, we are not talking about twins here, we're talking about sisters. So the last thing I want to do before eyes would be illuminator. And when we're going for a more natural, pale, ethereal kind of a look, we don't necessarily want to add a lot of shimmer or powder. So I'm going to go with a cream illuminator this time. This one's called Pearl. It's white and it's a sheer cream, so it goes on really subtly, and yet when it catches the light just right, you'll notice it picks up on that highlight and just gives it a beautiful highlighted, dewy, natural look. Okay? And you can apply it anywhere that you want to catch the light and give a little bit of extra highlight. So you can leave this like this, or you can add eyeshadow to it. I'm going to go ahead and add eyeshadow. I'm going to go for a mix of natural colors. I'm going to go with a mix of matte and shimmer, but you could stick with just mattes if you're looking for very natural. I'm going to go all over the lid here. I'm going to start right under the brow, the very tip of the brow, and I'm going to take this all the way over and just give a canvas. This is the shade Cupcake. Just going to be a really basic wash, not a lot of color there. And then I'm going to go in with the shade Pup. And I'm going to put that in my socket line. I'm just going to deepen that socket line out. So a very subtle contour just in the socket line to give lots of space for the lid to create this look. Okay. And then I'm going to take a shade called Bubba. And Bubba is where I'm going to add a little bit of color that's going to really make my blue eyes pop. Many women who are super pale like me have blue eyes. So if you do have blue eyes, you're going to notice that shades that have orange in them are going to really make your blue eyes pop. And you don't necessarily want to go overboard with a ton of orange, but a shade like Bubba, which is kind of a taupey brown with an orange undertone, is going to really do the trick while still looking fairly natural. So can you see that shade, how it does really complement the blue? And I'm applying that under the eye as well. So kind of focusing it on that outer V down underneath the eye. I'm going to go for a little bit of drama, but still working with fairly natural tones of color. Now, my two eyes are different sizes and different shapes. Most people have that same issue, especially as we age. Our face kind of changes and morphs a little bit, and eyes are one of those things that can kind of lose symmetry, which is okay. We can use makeup to kind of bring that back a little. I just recommend going back and forth between the two eyes and trying to do your best to create a similar shape on both sides. Okay. So I'm now going to go in with a little bit of shimmer. I'm going to go in with a color called Soulmate, which is a beautiful pinky peach shimmer, and apply it pretty much all over the lid. And then I'm going to add one more shimmer called Drift, which is a really pretty kind of an ivory gold color. And I'm going to pop that just in the inner corners to really open up the eyes, give that brightness, and kind of wake up my look. Now I'm going to really just deepen up this lash line with a shade called Snowbird. This is a beautiful shimmery, kind of a cool ashy brown with a hint of bronze or something in it. It's a very interesting color. And I love this one for a little bit of drama, just along that lash line. Again, if you're wanting to go with like a no makeup look, stick with mattes. You can still do something similar to this if you choose mattes that are all in the very light range, with just a small amount of contrast to each other. So these three, you could add in a shade like Basic instead of Bubba if you don't want that orangey shade, but I do love Bubba for blue eyes. Okay, and then we're gonna put that under the eye as well. Okay, if you wanted to add a line, if you like a black liner, you can totally do that either with black or brown. I personally really like this look, especially for that pale, more ethereal look. So you can definitely use a black liner just along the top lash line. Another cool thing you can do is you can use a colored liner. So you could go in with a shade like Ginger here, which has a lot of beautiful bronzy coppery shimmer to it. And you can use something like either water or setting spray on your brush, and if you get it wet, you can instantly turn it into a liner. So that will make it a lot more bold, and you can create a more solid line with a really cool effect that way. When you're very pale, use a brighter, bolder color that's not as dark as black, and it will give a really amazing impact while still giving great contrast. Okay, so that's a really cool look that you can rock if you're looking to add a little bit of drama or interest on the face, but keep that really pale skin showing. It doesn't mean you have to go boring. You can play with color, and it can look really amazing. Now, if you wanted to mute this down, if the really bright or dynamic eye look isn't really for you, blend it out, and you can still play with those same colors, but use them a little bit more subtly if they are blended more. Use a dry brush and it will take away some of that product. When in doubt, blend it out, and it will soften the look much more until you're happy with it. The last thing to do would be your lashes. You can go with something like a mascara primer, which come white, and you can actually use that mascara and rub it in with some eyeshadow of your choice if you're wanting to create a fair colored mascara. So I've done this before. I don't know where mine is right now, but I've mixed my white mascara primer with Basic eyeshadow and Bubba. I've mixed the two together just using the spoolie, just get a little bit of that eyeshadow off, mixed it into the tube, and created my own mascara color. So when I want blonde lashes that are still gonna show up and not be completely invisible, I use that, and it matches my hair color, it matches my brow color, and it gives me eyelashes and yet doesn't look makeup-y or too dramatic. But I do love a black liner and or black mascara for any eye color, because when you apply black around the eyes, it picks up on the black of your pupil, and therefore it's going to make any eye color really stand out. So even if you don't have a lot going on around your eyes, even if you choose not to wear eyeshadow at all, you pop a little bit of black mascara on there and all of a sudden your eyes are just popping forward. They're framed so beautifully. It's just a really easy way to emphasize your eyes and your eye color. So I love a black mascara most of the time, but if I'm going for super natural, then that trick with the mascara primer and a taupey colored eyeshadow is amazing. So that's that. I hope you've enjoyed my tips for pale skin girls. You do not have to go tanned in order to feel beautiful and to embrace the natural colors in your skin. You can totally go for it. It is amazing when you can utilize more than one color, because even when you're pale like us, you have more than one color in your skin. So if you can replicate that by using a few different creams together and mixing them into that beautiful mosaic that you will naturally find in your skin, you're gonna love the result. You're gonna end up with something luminous, beautiful, and yet still giving you the coverage that you want, while maintaining that fresh, dewy, skin-like finish that we all want. So here are my before and afters. If you are a pale girl like me, or you have challenges finding the right foundation to suit your skin tones or your skin texture, I definitely recommend you give Saint a try. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I would absolutely love to color match you. Of course, absolutely free. Make sure that we get a complete recommendation list for all the colors that would suit your uniquely beautiful skin tones, your hair color, your eye color, and I will work with you to build a custom palette that suits your budget and your needs. Because this is an all-in-one palette system, it completely cuts back on your makeup time, super efficient. Normally, this routine takes me 5 minutes, and if you're interested in seeing one of my quick 5-minute videos, take a look at the videos I have on file. I have a ton of them. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and feel free to contact me.